All right, so we're good to go. All right, so we are working on the Lost in the Woods assignment. I've already created my database, storing these values in there. I've created a project already, and so far I've just basically added my SQL.data and Dapper to my dependencies and restored, and that's where I am. Cool. So I'm gonna just first start by building out my HTML. And let that dictate what I need to do next. It's just my preferred way of building applications. But Lost in the Woods, I'll have like an H4 tag that says list of local hiking trails. I'll have a table which will have a T head, which has THs. Do I need a TR here? Do I need a TR? I don't remember. TH. And it looks like I need one for a trail name, trail length. And elevation change. And I'll have a T-body, which will eventually hold the loops of, or it will hold the for loop that will generate all of the different trails that I have. So let's take a look at how this looks so far. Cool. Lost in the Woods, list of local hiking trails. I have trail name, trail length, elevation change. That table looks pretty ugly though, so do you guys use Bootstrap? It's pretty easy since it comes default with Candyman. Just go ahead and put like table striped, table, what else? Bordered is a good one. Cool. And there you go. And then eventually I'll hold all the different trails down here. Cool. All right, looks good. Should we do some CSS too, for fun? Let's do our table and have a margin just the top of like 20 pixels. Is that it? Was that 20 pixels? What? Oh, it's because my screen is so huge. Is that why? I don't know. Anyways, that looks a little better. Cool. I think now we have a little button down here that's going to link to a new page that will allow us to create a new trail. So I'm going to add that real quick. Down here. If I want to wrap do I wrap an A tag around a button tag, or do I wrap a button tag around an A tag? Around an A tag?
No.
Other way?
Yeah.
Okay. I forget. Well, this makes sense, yeah. Cool. And this will say add new trail. This A tag will link to new trail. Cool. Let's make this look a little bit better. btn dash. Cool. Then I have a button here. If I click on this, it should go to new trail. I don't know if you guys can see on the bottom left-hand corner right here. If I hover over it, it says /new trail, right? So I need to create that route now. So go to my home controller. I will create a new route for new trail, new trail, new trail. And all this route is going to do really is render my new trail page, right? So trails, new file, new trail.chcs.html. Cool. So this page will be look like this. New trail page, add a new trail. Cool. So let's restart now that I've added a new route in my controller. Refresh. On my tiles. Okay, refresh. And then if I click on add a new trail, I go to my add a new trail page. So far, so good. If I have like an A tag here, come on. Maybe like to a home, like home, then I could just put an empty route, and that will lead to my root route, right? So if I click home, I go back here. Add a new trail, home. Cool? So adding a new trail, I'm gonna need a giant form here. So let's do that. Form action will be to like create. And my form, actually I forgot to put in my method, which will be of course a post method. Cool. So what fields do I need in my form? Oh my gosh, trail name. So label for name trail name, when this will be an input type of a text ID equals trail name. Cool. Perfect. And a break tag. I have description. For description, I think this will not be an input. It will be a text area, which means that I need to close off my text area. Okay, cool. And I have trail length, elevation change, trail length, Shoot, and I don't have a name here, do I? Length. And you know what I should be doing is making sure that these name attributes match correctly with what?
Whatever it says in your multi.
Yes, exactly. ID description, cool. Text type, cool. Name, description, trail length. I called it trail length. So I'll have to call this trail length. Okay, what else do I need? Trail length, elevation change, latitude, longitude. Elevation change, latitude, longitude. Call this elev, and I called it elevation. And latitude and longitude. Can I have that ASCII character? And I'm sure I can. Latitude and longitude, and this will have 2. Does anyone know what comes first? Is it longitude and latitude?
I don't.
Is it longitude first? Latitude and longitude? But this says longitude first?
Yeah.
Is it latitude first, like when you give geographic coordinates? Because we might use Google Maps and we're gonna need to be accurate. I don't know, we'll figure it out. Longitude, latitude, and we should change this. There. Cool. Oh, my foot's dead. Perfect. Input type submit value add trail class btn. TN info. Cool. So this looks pretty similar, right? Trail, description, trail length, elevation change, longitude, latitude. Trail name, description, this, that. Cool. All right. Any questions about my form now? Okay, so if I have a post method that goes to create, then I need to create a route that matches that, right? That's able to accept that route. So it'll be a post route called create, which means this needs to be create, and this HTTP needs to be post. And let's call this create. So let's have this return redirect to action new trail. And let's see if we can in create method. So let's restart. And check it out. So let's add a new page, or add a new trail. And if we click add trail, hopefully we redirected, but we printed in create method. You guys see that? So we just redirected to this route again that rendered the same page, but I just wanted to see if my route was working. It is. So instead of just console.logging in create method, let's actually, well, first validate to see if the information I'm getting back is good. And if it is, save it to the database. If it's not, render an error or render error messages, right? So at this point, I probably want a model to handle a lot of that heavy lifting for me, right? So let's close this out. We don't need that. Let's create a new folder called models. In models, I'll create a new class called trail.cs, and trail will share the same namespace, public class trail. And this is where all of the attributes of my trail object will go. What are my trail attributes? Name, description, trail length. Name. Oh my gosh. Name. Description. Trail length. What else do I have? Length. Did I spell that wrong? Elevation.
Dropped a few. It's length.
Elevation. Longitude and latitude. Longitude. Latitude. Cool. So this will, of course, be a string. This will also be a string. Trail length, I forget what I saved it as. Trail length was a double. Who knows what a double is?
Like a float with more. So a 32-bit instead of a 16-bit float.
64 instead of 32. But yes, it's like a float. There are some differences in the way that the bits are stored in your machine, but yeah.
Yeah, why is it that, like, I never see floats? Everybody tends to use double or int.
It's C# standard, but again, it's if you want to be nitpicky, it goes to the way that the amount of storage it takes to store that integer. So there are longs, which are like extremely long, like many places. Yeah, I don't know too much about it though. Yeah, elevation is int.
Your table, does the name of your columns have to match? I know it has to match your fields in your model, but does it have to be the same case? Like, can these all be lowercase?
They can
So
be.
fine.
Yeah. That's what's weird about C# is a lot of the different libraries, frameworks that, as maybe not, I shouldn't be overgeneralizing with the entire language of C#, but as far as ASP.NET and ASP.NET Core goes, as strict as they are about weird stuff, they're super not strict about casing. Yeah. But it's good to be consistent, right? Yeah. Don't rely on system flaws to unless you're working in JavaScript. Longitude, latitude are both strings. That's weird. String, string. I think I put it as a string because I think I originally thought that I would be expecting like 47.4624 degrees north. So I thought I would be expecting a string back.
Oh, but really they should probably be doubles so that you can put in the 47.4624 and then just like concatenate the degrees north.
Yeah, I'm not too sure. So I left it open-ended and left it as a string because if it's going to be an int anyways, I can just convert it back. So we'll see. We'll figure it out as we go. Cool. Cool. So I have my class defined at this point. We do need some validations though, right? I feel like a name should be required. I think all of these should be required. So you have a name. Actually, the assignment gives us exactly what we want it to be. Name is required. Description, min length of 10. Min length of 10. And trail length, numeric. Elevation change, numeric. Proper format, I'm not going to worry about too much. How do you check to see if something's numeric? Is it like data type? I forget. Anybody? And then what do I put in there? Int? Like this?
Wouldn't be if it's expecting it to double. I don't know.
It'd be like data type dot something.
Data type, data annotations. Data type attribute. What? Data type dot something.
The only thing I'm seeing at data type dot is like credit card, currency, custom date, email, HTML, image, multi-line text, password, and phone number.
For data type dot.
Yeah.
Data type dot. Huh.
Oh, never mind. There's more.
Was there something else in there? Dot custom HTML image URL. Dang, these are pretty cool though. You can check to see if what you're getting is like an image URL. Let's see. I'm gonna check the data annotations tab. Data type, a data object, data type dot password. I might not care about this too much. Data annotations must be numeric. Oh, we can use range. That's pretty cool. Or regex, of course. I guess there is no like is numeric data annotation, but we can use range. So let's do that.
But regex down there looked like it would have done it as well.
Yeah, I think both would have worked. Or hold on, I think this was a double, right? So we have to do double dot max value. All right. So we have some validations in place. So if we pass in a trail object of new trail, again, it will create that new trail object for us by mapping the name attributes from our form to the actual attributes of the trail class, and it'll build that object for us. Not only will it do that, but it'll run the try validate model method. So once that model or try validate model method runs, we have a model state available to us, right? So we can do something like if model states dot is valid, we can console dot write line good. Else we know that it was bad. So let's check it out. So we have our trail page here. So if I try to add a trail like this, then hopefully my model state was not valid. So I'll get some bad. Oh yeah. If I didn't have an else here, should have done that. Oh, sorry, that's weird.
What was that?
I don't know. So if I put that in an else and then refresh, cool. Add trail. Get some. Why is that good? I was expecting bad, right? Why? Why is my model state valid? Trail. Why? Anybody? Did I miss something? New trail. What the heck? It's gonna hit my create method. Post, it has all these things. Why am I getting in here? That is valid. Any ideas? So public iaction create, pass in a trail object called new trail.
I run into a slightly sort of similar problem. And in the form, I had to end up using like ASP-action and ASP- like instead of using name, I had to like use something with the ASP- instead of the name ASP-4.
Yeah.
But you excluded ASP. You just said 4. Yeah, you just said 4.
Okay. I mean, I don't know why that worked or why I was doing what I was doing, but I know that's what I had to do on the HTML side to get mine to work.
Kind of lost. Why would my model state be valid? If model state dot is valid, then print good. Right? Return redirect to new trail. What the heck? I'm passing in my new trail object, so it should be model binded to my trail object here. I'll try validate model real quick. So the second one says good, the first one said good. That's not right.
Yeah, so validations aren't working.
So try Something's wrong. So, what's going on? Create trail. Class trail. Do you guys see what's going on?
No.
Trails. Namespace trails. This is so weird. Public class trail. This isn't named right. It shouldn't be the issue though. Can't imagine that's the issue. Why? What's going on?
Can you see your model?
Yeah. String name. Public.
After trails.
Oh, shoot. I think this is why. After trails, yeah. Was this? Did you see something?
Well, I don't know. I normally put after trails like it would be like dot models.
Oh. Oh, yeah. I think you're right too. But let me see if this is it. Maybe these were set to private, so they weren't being registered as like things that needed to be checked against.
But then why would it? Weird.
Because if we don't have them set to public, then they're not visible to be manipulated. So as far as like the model that's being created goes, I mean, it should think that it's fine. But yes, you're right. I think it's also good to do trails like dot models so that it knows that it's a model. But bad. Woo!
Nice.
Stupid. But yes. Is it just like this? Some models?
I mean, can we just leave that out?
Yeah, we can. Cool. All right, so don't do what I did. Remember to make your variables explicitly like state that what the visibility of them should be. Cool. So our validations are working. I think that said bad. This should say bad. Trail length should be a double. Elevation change should be an int. This can just be a string of whatever. So we should get good. All right, sorry about that derail, but we're back on track. Everything's looking good. Else, if it's bad, we know that we can just store into viewBag dots. We can just call it errors equals model states dot values. Nope, it's not a function. Values, and then we can just return view new trail, which we can do there. And then we'll iterate over that. New list. That error again. Return view new trail. Which means that if we want to loop through that list of errors, we can just do something like this there, and I think we called that errors. viewbag.errors, model state.values. Cool. Everything is good to go. Just need to reopen this real quick. All right, any questions so far? What I did here, viewbag.errors, I just stored the errors that are being held in my model state if my model state was invalid. I'm going to store it into this viewbag.errors so I can iterate through it on my template.
So both of those lists then? Viewbag.errors is a list.
Exactly.
State.values is a list.
Yep.
List of strings probably.
This is a list of empty strings. This could just as easily have been ints or like objects. It doesn't matter. I just want to create some empty list. Model state.values is not just a list. It's like a list of dictionaries which at index of 0, or it's like an array, but at index of that array 0, the string of the error is being held. So the string is in there. It's just being stored in this like weird place. And that's evident in how we unpack it, right? We have for each error in viewbag.errors. So viewbag.errors is going to be the dot values that were rendered. We have to check in each error object dot errors bracket 0 dot error message to actually extract that string. So we should be good to go. .NET run. Okay, and we come here, refresh. Cool. Add trail. We got some errors. Can add some stuff here. Can add some stuff here. And the value of this is not valid. The value, I don't know what that's for. But let's see. Let's put 3.3. Elevation change. We'll do like a not string. So the value of this was not acceptable for elevation because it needs to be an int, right? Because we put that range there. Trail length, we'll leave that blank. See what error message we get there. Cool. So the latitude field is required. Trail, was that trail length? Yeah, why is trail length being weird? Trail length. Shouldn't this error message be rendering?
Well, it's the error message for the required, not the if, right?
Is it?
Well, because it was blank, so wouldn't that be required?
I guess so. Was it for trail length? Shoot, I keep forgetting. Yeah, I guess so. Can we not do this? Oh, crap. All right, if this doesn't work, we're moving on. This is just like a simple error thing that you guys can figure out, but I just want to see if this works. Add trail, put some stuff here, put some stuff there. That was for length. Oh, I don't know why that's being weird. Does it give you
Doesn't even give us the
trail
custom message.
length? It doesn't give you the custom message, but it does give you this message that it's invalid. Like,
Oh, got it. Yeah.
hello world. It gives you the custom message that was created. It doesn't seem like it's liking our error message arguments. Anyways, we might come back to this later, but I don't want to get held up on this too much longer. So our error messages are working. Hopefully, if everything checks out, though, we don't get any error messages, right? Trail length should be like 3.3 miles. Elevation should be like 7,000. Is that high? I don't know. Add trail. Great. No error messages, and I should see. Good. Perfect. Good. So now that our error messages or our errors are being created, even though the messages are being weird, we can go ahead and save that trail object to our database, right? Now, how do I do that using Dapper? This is where we haven't used any Dapper so far. So now we can start integrating Dapper. Let's check out the Dapper chapter. So setting up Dapper. So we have our model. Dapper utilizes something that we're going to call factories. They don't have to be called factories. I think in documentation they're called something different than factories. I forget what they're called. But we chose to call them factories just because for people who come from the stacks that we have here at Coding Dojo, we use the word factories a lot because it makes sense. All it is just a class where you're storing methods that pertain to a particular object. So it's like a library of functions that pertain to any specific object, right? So we'll be building out, like you can see, user factory here. We will be building out a trail factory.cs, and we will be adding methods in there like add or find all or find by ID. We'll be crafting those messages ourselves, or those methods ourselves. But before we can do all of that, we need to create this file called ifactory.cs, which a lot of people have questions about. And let's see.
We didn't really cover interface as well.
No, not too much. Yeah, you're right. Let's put these in a factory called, or a folder called factories. It's not a file. Factories. In here we'll have a file called ifactory. And there we go. We don't. Should we define our base entity? So who can kind of guess, maybe if you guys have done a little bit of Dapper stuff before, what this ifactory does?
Well, you're saying that every something, wherever there's a base entity, it's going to have an interface of whatever I'm about to tell you, of whatever this interface is. I don't know. Interfaces didn't really make a whole lot of sense to me.
You don't have to worry too much about like what an interface is, like to understand this part. Although it's good to know what they do. Here, the real thing to really pull out of what this file is doing is this generic T type. So what this T type is going to do is that's what's going to essentially map the contents of what's coming back from your DB to whatever object that you pass into that generic T type. So into that generic T type, if you put a user object, then the data will map to the user object. If you put in a trail object, then the pieces will map to a trail object. And we're going to add, let me see here. So as we define our user factory, it's going to pull from this ifactory interface, and we're going to throw in the correct model that it should correspond to.
So if we were making a trail factory, then that would be ifactory type trail.
Let's do that right now. So trail factory.cs. Cool.
I don't entirely understand what that T colon base entity is.
So let's see, Dapper app. Cool. This is called trails.factory. We'll call this trail factory. Cool. And here we're passing in a trail object. What is this? The type trails.trail trail cannot be used as a type parameter T in generic method. Why? There we go. Cool. So this trail factory, so forget that. That's just the namespace, right? Forget this. Forget that for now. What we're looking at here is we've defined a class called trail factory, and we're pulling from this iFactory object, which we've defined here. And this iFactory interface accepts a generic T type, and what we're passing to that generic T type is this trail object. Cool?
Okay, so go back to the trail object, the trail class. So trail is a child of base entity. Yes? Trail colon base entity. That means trail is a child of base entity.
Sure.
And so base entity is just an abstract class, and in this case, it doesn't have a constructor function or anything else. Okay. So now when we go to the trail factory, what the hell does base entity have to do with the interface of trail factory?
It just needs to be inherited. If I just got rid of this, and I got rid of this, and then I got rid of this, then that would be fine. It's just if you're using base entity, it has to be consistent across the board.
Okay, so why are we using base entity?
Base entity is just it's an extension for your classes where if they have anything that's shared across them, like for example, if all of your
so like everything could have created at and
exactly
at.
sure yeah
That would be a reason to use this.
exactly yeah.
Okay, so then, but if we're passing in iFactory of T, which T is base entity, why is that now all of a sudden iFactory of trail or user?
Because that's what T does. T is not just a random letter that we chose. T is it's a generic type. It's a restricted character, or like a, I guess you could call it a character because that's all it is. But it's a reserved keyword in C#.
It's a key character.
It's a key character, yeah, where it will accept any type of generic object. And in this case, what the Dapper ORM will do for us, and if you ask me how, I don't know. Let's like ask the people who invented Dapper. It's going to map the context of what's coming back from our DB and craft this generic T-type object, which in this case is trail.
We defined this T-type object to be base entity, but then when we go over elsewhere, we're defining that T-type to be trail. Right?
No, this T-type is not base entity. The T-type inherits from base entity. The T-type will always be whatever we pass in.
Oh, okay, so this is saying there's a restriction. We can only pass in things that do inherit from base entity.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what that said.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay, and we know that trails inherit from base entity.
Exactly. So it just needs to be consistent across the board if we're going to be using it.
Okay, so the trail factory is a child of this iFactory thing that we've defined.
Yep.
Okay, fine.
So this trail factory inherits from this interface here, and we pass in trail to the interface so that all of the objects that are coming through from our DB will be mapped to these trail objects. This connection string, you guys have all seen this before. If you guys want to make this a secure connection string, then kind of follow the same steps that you guys did for your MySQL or your DB connector connection string. But basically what we need to do is...
so that connection string would be the same thing that we saved in app settings.
Yeah, exactly. Or what you hard-coded into dbconnector.cs if you were not keeping it safe. But I need to change all of the information in this string to trails. This is 8889, roots, cool. Awesome. So now my factory is configured, and below all of this, I can write my factory methods. Cool. So below here, I can now define methods of trail factory so that in my controller, I can instantiate a new instance of Trail Factory and call upon those methods. Cool? So let's look down here. So here, I can just, let's say, no, not add. Sure, let's do add. Let's take a look at this method. Oops. This method is public, so it's callable. It just returns nothing, void. It's non-static, so you don't see the static keyword. It's non-static, so we know that it's an instance method. We call it off of instances of Trail Factory, right? And the name of it is add. And apparently it accepts a parameter, right? So this will probably be a trail object, and we'll call this like new trail. And this will be like new trail. Cool. So this part is the part where it should be super similar to what you guys have been doing all along. All we do is we build a string, a query string, and then we pass it into this .execute method. You guys have all done that before, right? So we designed our dbconnector.cs that you guys have used for the past week to be as similar to something like Dapper so that the learning curve won't be as steep. The only thing that you have to do is .open, execute the .open method for DB connection because that's how Dapper accepts communications.
So wait a minute, this is not using the DB connector
File class?
file.
Nope, I don't have that file. This is all Dapper.
Dapper takes the place of that file.
Exactly.
Okay, so that file was saying, hey, I'm just making a direct connection. That file was our ORM. That file was our connection to our database.
That file was your ORM, except for the O in ORM, because it never returned to you an object.
It returned to you
a dictionary, a list of dictionaries.
Okay.
So it behaves very similarly like that DB connection file,
Okay.
except instead of a list of dictionaries that have no meaning to whatever object we have, what this does is it maps it to whatever generic T type we passed, which happened to be trail, and that's pretty much the only difference. Is
this is returning objects instead of lists of dictionaries.
Yes, exactly.
Which is why it's an object relational mapper instead of
That's-
whatever we had before.
that's
Whatever
all
we had
an ORM
before
is.
was return to me query strings that were the result of my queries.
Exactly.
And now this is saying return an object.
And that is all an ORM is,
Okay,
really.
so there's some magic in Dapper. When we imported Dapper, Dapper gives us the ability to call this method of dbconnection.open. Like that's where that dbconnection.open is coming from, is from importing Dapper.
Exactly. This .open method comes from DB connection, and DB connection is type IDB connection, which draws from this MySQL connector string.
And that we would not have access to that without Dapper.
Exactly.
Okay.
So we've defined this add method, right? So we've defined this add method. We know that it accepts a new trail. So from our controller right here, because this is where it all started, right? I want to actually create my new trail and store it into my database. I first need to instantiate a new trail factory object so that I can call upon the add method of that trail factory, right? So if we look over here, it shows us exactly how to do that. So we have a private read-only user factory, and we've named it conveniently user factory. And when we instantiate our controller, we just store a new instance of that factory into that variable, right? Oops. So paste that in here. Instead of user factory, we have trail factory. This is called trail factory, and we have a trail. Cool. And this needs to have a using statement. Cool.
Should be trails.
Yeah, we can call this like, since it's private, we can call it like trails factory. So these two lines up here, or this one line and this one constructor function, all it does is we define a new private variable called trails factory, and then into it we store a new factory object. So
I've always been a little confused on this. When does that constructor function get called? When have we ever called?
when you build your MVC,
Where,
MVC.build.
where is that? Is that in like startup or
Exactly.
project or
Startup.
okay?
So now I have that object available to me, just like here. I can just call upon it. User factory dot whatever method exists inside of it, right?
In this case, add.
In this case, add, yes. So Trails factory dot, and IntelliSense is great because it gives us everything that is included in that object. One of them happens to be add. If I click add, hover over add, it shows me that it comes from Trail factory, and it expects a trail object. So how about I pass in new trail as the object? Following? That new trail gets passed into this add method as a parameter. And again, if we check out the add method parameter, or the add method, the parameter expects a trail object. And then this is just another syntax for a string interpolation, but we inject new trail dot name, new trail dot email, new trail dot password, and obviously these are not correct. We'll have to change these to the right ones. But we create this SQL query string, and then we send it to our dot execute method, which will eventually store that object into our database.
And so this goes back to that what is it, skinny controllers fat models. This is allowing our controller to be skinny.
Yeah, you could say that.
By refactoring all of that out of here and sticking it into a manager somewhere.
Yep. Description, trail length, elevation, longitude, latitude, elevation, longitude, latitude, and created at. Values will be name, description, trail length, elevation.
We didn't do an updated at, so just created at now.
Yeah. Longitude, latitude. Cool. I think one other thing I want to do maybe.
Hats.
Do I? Did I miss that?
I think so. I think you missed hats.
Date, time, created. Oops. At. Cool. So I think this should work. You guys want to give it a shot? Don't need this anymore. Cool. Let's close it down, start it up. And, oh wait, one other thing. If I make any changes across the wire like that, then Dapper has this method called, oh wait, no, never mind. I'm mixing up my Dapper and Entity Framework. You have to save changes in Entity Framework, right? I think. Yeah, never mind. So, is this querying with Dapper? Yeah, we should be good to go. Cool. So let's start up our server, .NET Run. Check out our local host here. And let's try to put in some trails. Who likes to hike? I think there is like rattlesnake. Oh, I think I did that one already. Rattlesnake. Hiking is so fun at Rattlesnake. Trail length. How long is Rattlesnake? Like 3 miles?
3 miles.
3.3. Elevation change.
1,000 feet.
1,000 feet. Is that a lot? I can never tell. Longitude. I don't know.
It's probably in the middle of the ocean somewhere.
Trails.user. Am I calling trails.user somewhere? Why? I know it's something that I copy and pasted because it's looking for. Oh, users. Yeah, sorry. Dang it. Insert into trails. Is it called trails? Yeah. Cool. So let's try that again.
Probably could have just backed and saved all your form data, right?
I think I still have to refresh at some point, don't I? I don't know. Rattlesnake. Blah, blah, blah. Trail length, 3.3. Elevation, 1,000. And that's not right. There we go. Add trail. Woo! Looks good. If we check out our DB, run it again, there's Rattlesnake right there. Cool? So let's take a step back and look at what we did, right? Because a lot of stuff happened right there. If we take a look at our controller method, up here we just instantiate a new Trails factory. Down here we just Trails factory.add this new object. Pretty slick, right?
And that new Trails factory gets instantiated when we call our constructor method. Was that
Yep.
true?
Yep. Exactly.
So if we have multiple controllers, so let's imagine that on top of trails we were having vacation destinations and there was some relation between them. That vacation destination would also, on its constructor, also need to instantiate factories.
Any
Factory.
any controller that needs to interact with any model needs to instantiate that model's factory. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if you had 3 or 4 models and 3 or 4 controllers, each of them would instantiate all 3 or 4 factories.
Yep. Exactly. I'm going to take this up here, return, redirect to action index. So we know that if we create a trail successfully, we will redirect to index. One thing here, when we hit our index, I want to see all of the trails that exist, right? Right now I'm not really rendering that. So how can I do that in my index?
Make a factory method called getTrails.
Exactly. All viewbag.all_trails equals underscore trails factory dot, I don't know, get all trails?
Sure.
Get all trails? Cool. We haven't defined this method yet, right? So if we hover over it, it should say trail factory does not contain a definition for get all trails. But that's okay because we can just define that right now, right? So let's go to our trail factory. So we have this add method here. Instead of an add method, let's do another public. What's our return type?
So this was my question on viewbag. Does viewbag.allTrails, is that a list of strings? Is that a list of objects? What is that?
Viewbag.whatever is whatever you put in it.
Okay, so in this case, we're returning objects. We want this to return a list of trail objects.
Exactly. So public list of trail objects, and we're gonna
Whatever we call this.
call it gets all trails. Get all
What
trails.
would you call it?
Get all trails. Cool.
So it's going to need to return all trails.
Yes, exactly. And if we look at our Dapper, here we go. So similar to this, right? So find all, right? So all we do is just open up our DB connection, just like we always do. We open up our connection, and then instead of a .execute, we have a .query method, just like we're used to. And we just pass select all from whatever,
From
right?
trails.
Yeah, so let's do that.
What does that DB connection .open do? Is that just like connect to my SQL database? Is that what .open is in essence?
Oh, I see. This needs to be an IEnumerable. Cool.
Right.
Sorry, you were asking me what open does?
Yeah.
I'm not. It just opens our connection to.
It allows us
be
to
able
use
exactly.
metric.
Yeah. So DB connection, we're gonna return an IEnumerable of trails. Cool.
You want to
So
select all from trails.
select, yeah, just select all from, yeah, thank you, trails. And
What's the difference between an IEnumerable and a list?
an IEnumerable just means like, it literally means you can iterate over it. So like strings, lists, dictionaries, yeah. Select all from trails, trails controller. So now, get all trails. We've defined that method, so it exists, right? So trails factory dot get all trails runs, and that IEnumerable of trail objects gets stored in this all trails variable. So since we're passing that to our front end through our view bag, on our index.cshtml here, boop, we can have a
For each trail in viewbag dot all trails or whatever the hell it is.
for each bar trail in at viewbag dot all trails. We will have a TD. Nope. Nope. Table row of TDs. We will have trail dot. Let's just do name to see if this even works. Cool. So refresh. Yay, we're getting our stuff back. Trail length. So td dot trail length and elevation. Cool. So I think trail length is gonna be like miles. This is gonna be like feet. Awesome. So I think we're just about done.
The Space Needle is a 600-mile hike.
Yeah. Yeah. Did it say 600 miles?
Yeah.
Oh man. Cool. So we've got this part down and we've got this part down. Really, the only part left is the show page, right? So if I click on these links, it should take me to a show page which renders all of that information about that trail. So if I were to maybe right before my name, oops, I were to do something like trail ID. Oops. Y. Hold on. So if I were to do that again, but with no bugs, perfect. You guys can see that I'm actually pulling the IDs out of my database, right? Cool. So what can I do then?
So that's going to end up needing to be like route parameter somehow.
Yeah, exactly. There you go. So we will have some type of like a href that will go to something like trail slash this, right? I'm going to copy this, put it right here. And move that a tag after the name. Cool. So if I refresh, now these are links now, right? And if I look down at the bottom left-hand corner again right here, if I hover over this, it's going to take me to localhost 5000 slash trail slash 4. This one's going to take me to trail slash 5. So what I'm doing is I'm passing their ID through my route so that I can extract that integer from my route and query for that particular entry in my database, right? So I need to create in my trails controller a get routes called trail, and does it look like this? Right? Trail ID. Is that right? Yes? What is it called? Show. I don't know. Cool. Let's console.writeLine trail ID, and then we'll return the view of show. So that means I need another new file, show.cshtml here. Show, and we'll just do hellos. Cool. So let's see here. If I refresh this page and I click on Space Needle, I should redirect here and I should get a 4. If I go back and click on Rattlesnake, I should get a 5. Cool? So before I render this page, obviously I don't want this page just to say this like nonsense string. I want to actually query using this trail ID, right? So here I can viewBag dot current trail equals trails factory dot get trail by ID and pass in trail ID. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Cool. So now all I need to do is define my method of get trail by ID, and that should be pretty easy. And oh, look at that. That exists for me to copy and paste. But honestly, if you guys were to write this out yourselves, it's super straightforward. All you need to do is open up your connection and make sure that the query string that you're writing is a legitimate SQL query string, right? So this is going to return a trail object. This should be a trail type. Select all from trails where ID equals ID. Cool. I don't really know what the syntax is, so I'm just going to,
What is that?
like, I can just do this.
And then you want to change your method name to get by whatever it was instead of find by ID.
Yes, you're right. Get trail by ID. Go away. Perfect. Cool. So again, all I'm doing is I opened up my DB connection and then I'm querying using this query string, right? Cool. So in that case, I will have stored that trail object in cur_trail. So if I go to show.html, I can do something like at viewbag.cur_trail.name. And refresh. Dang it. And refresh. Okay. And then we'll have description, trail length, elevation. Trail length, which is going to be something. We'll have something like description with like maybe like a p tag here. Description, trail length is going to be at viewbag.trail length. And what else do we have? Elevation change. Elevation change. Elevation. Cool. So we have our description, blah, 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 trail length, elevation change. So maybe we can do something like miles, feet. Cool. And as far as the assignment goes, that's all of it. We have a couple of optionals here. We can talk about how we might do these. And then if you guys really want to, we can maybe try doing one of them. From the main page, make it possible to sort trails by both length and elevation change. Let's say this was a belt exam. How might you guys do that?
So make it possible?
Yeah, I want to sort. I want the option somehow to be able to sort this from shortest hike to longest hike.
That feels kind of like an Ajax-y thing to do.
Could be Ajax. It could just be like a. If you're using Angular, you could use a filter. So I think hooking up Angular to this would be a lot more work than just creating another route to handle that. But for sure, right? All it would just be is another route. And if you made it into Ajax, that would be great. That would probably be way more responsive and load this little table as a partial instead of like the entire page. But what you could easily do is just click on this, and that will take you to another route, basically where you query for all of the trails, but instead you just do like a link method that does like a dot order by, right? Same thing for elevation change. If I clicked on this, I would hit another route, which queries for all my trails, but just use link with a dot order by elevation instead.
So it runs the query and then re-renders the page.
Yeah.
So actually, could we go back to without making the extra route, can we just go to the index route or the dashboard route? In the
Yes.
So right there. So the viewbag equals all trails equals trails factory dot get all trails. So that would be like get all trails dot